We all come to pray, but we're back for warriors, keeping the whispers away. In suits and in skirts, we're the rebels you say, talking about life and dreaming of a different day. On the back row we stay, in the back we don't sway, just let the sermon flow. We're on the back row.
It is time for another episode of the Cultural Hall. It is the first episode of the year of our Lord 2025. If you are just barely finding us, a lot of people search out new habits, new listening things for the new year. Welcome. The Cultural Hall has been around since April of 2011. We do lots of articles of news episodes. That is where we talk about various things coming up in the news, and that is what this episode is. I have been a part of all but one episode of the Cultural Hall, so you will always hear my constant voice and then others that will come in. Sometimes we do interviews and we talk about things that I'm interested in, and hopefully all of you are interested in. Other times we talk about things that I am not interested in at all, but I know that you are interested in them, and we call it the Cultural Hall. Episodes usually go about an hour long, so if you're putting together, say, like a Lego set, or you're running on a treadmill, whatever those things may be, we welcome you to the Cultural Hall. My guest for today is not a guest, but a co-host. It's Molly the Ash Ashton. How are you?
I am fantastic. Thanks, Richie. How are you?
I am well. In true fashion, as you and your sister are globe trotters, we were going to have you on an episode, and yet again, in that privileged life that you all lead, you are able to be somewhere else. Philadelphia is not what I think most people do in the wintertime. Why were you in Philadelphia?
No, not at all. In fact, it was a little bit crazy. It was pretty cold, especially coming from Arizona, but we were visiting my son's mission. So he returned in July from the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania mission. And this was our first opportunity we've had to get back there. So we took a tour of the entire state of Delaware and New Jersey and Eastern Pennsylvania. And it was really great. It was fun to see old companions of his and to meet families that he touched, and to kind of experience his life a little bit.
So I want to pick this apart a little bit, because normally what would happen is mom and dad would come out and pick up the missionary and then be able to do it at that time. You guys just too busy, couldn't make the time? Is that what it is?
Actually, no. We asked him, and since he was coming home end of July, he said the weather is miserable in July with how humid it is.
Sure.
And he was so anxious to get home to 120-degree dry heat in July. He didn't want to be touring around in the humidity. So we decided to make it a little Christmas excursion. And actually, Dad wasn't even able to come because he had to work. But
aren't you Dad's boss? Couldn't you let him have the day off?
Not his other job. His other job is working for Delta, which allows us to be able to fly the whole family to Philadelphia in the home. So anyway, it was really fun. I enjoyed, we really had a good time. We did a lot of driving. We were squished in a little car driving all over the place, but it was a good time.
Were there a lot of moments, because my parents, and let me scratch that, my dad and then a couple brothers came and picked me up. Were there a lot of moments where he was like, oh, and it was so awesome, and you just knew that he thought it was the most awesome thing in the world, but you couldn't figure out why it was awesome at all?
Yeah, there were a few of those moments for sure. And we were like I look at the kids, they're all like, wait, what? Okay, Ma, all right. And I'm like, we're just going to be excited for him. We're going to show that we think this is just as fun as he does. Now, I have to tell you what's funny though, is so his mission takes in Atlantic City, New Jersey, but he never served there. But he was like, I really want to go to Atlantic City. I've never been there.
Sure.
And so we drove down there, and it was not my favorite place I've ever been, but it was fun now to say we've been to Atlantic City, and we hung out on the beach a little bit and whatnot. But yeah, that was one thing he was super excited about doing. And afterwards he's like, it's okay. I don't need to go back there.
Yeah. Part of that probably had to be with the fact that you did it in the coldest time of the year. Certainly.
Yeah, for sure.
Were there also those things that the mother bear went, wait a minute, you lived here? You lived in this community?
Yeah, there were a few of those. And in fact, there was one, his last apartment we visited, we went to every apartment he lived in and we took pictures. And his last one, there was a murder, less than a block. Okay, if you've ever heard of Wawa, it's a convenience store gas station, and he's obsessed with Wawa. And the corner Wawa, like yeah, 50 yards from his apartment, there was a murder just a month ago. And so that's kind of crazy, to think that that's where you're living. But he always felt he lived in downtown Philly. In fact, his very, very favorite area, it's where we went to church on Sunday, was the downtown inner city Philadelphia ward. And it was incredible. The people were amazing. And it was definitely like, my other kids are like, did you ever feel nervous living here? And he's like, no. He's like, I never did. I never felt nervous at all. He's like, they left us alone. We'd talk about God and they'd either listen or not. And otherwise we were left alone. So
Yeah.
it's cool.
It's a great way to repel people who might otherwise annoy you. Hey,
Right.
would you like to hear about our Heavenly Father's plan? You know what? I was gonna rob you, but actually, I'm gonna
I'm at.
pass. There will be someone else that will be easier to do this. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's a fun thing, and I bet for the kids that got to see it, got to see a little bit about like what a mission is and get to learn a little bit more about their brother. That's like a cool trip. I knew it had to be that you were either a huge fan of like the beginning of America or like something, something maybe family or like deeply rooted, because no one goes to Philadelphia and Delaware in December and it's like, yeah, this is the time. This is when you do this.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I do have to say it's so funny when you say you're a fan of the beginning of America.
Mhm.
My 16-year-old was talking to a friend yesterday and he's like, "Oh yeah, I just got back from Philly." He's like, "Well, what was the favorite thing you did there?" He's like, "I saw the Liberty Bell."
Mhm.
And I'm like, "That's hilarious because we actually didn't. We saw it from a window because we didn't want to wait in line for it."
Sure.
But he is deeply loves the America history and whatnot. So it was fun. It was fun to be able to see the historical stuff too.
Did you run the Rocky stairs?
Well, I was outvoted on that. They all decided we could just drive by.
Yeah.
So we drove by and took a picture.
Yeah.
But
Not as cool. Not as
no,
cool. Missed
no.
opportunity.
I know. We fit a lot in, and it was just we were just doing a lot that day, so it's okay. I'll go back
Yeah,
sometime.
don't worry, kids. Mom was the one that made this trip possible, and all she wanted to do was run some stairs. I hope you don't feel guilty that the one thing that she wanted to do, you all vetoed. No, no, of course, we'll do the things you want to do, but are we going to
Yeah.
run the stairs? No. I mean, I literally, you are from my body, but no, that's fine. Let's not run the Rocky stairs. I hope they feel very guilty about that.
Yeah, they do. They will, I'm sure, eventually.
No, they won't. They are
Well,
teenagers and they care zero.
no, it's true. I will tell you the one thing I love is I love visiting cemeteries when I travel, and we
Mhm.
definitely visited several cemeteries. Anyone I saw, they also told me there would be times I was asleep in the car and
Mhm.
they'd be like, "Don't wake mom up. There's a cemetery up here. We don't want her to see it." So rude.
What? Wait, what? So tell me very quickly, why do we love cemeteries?
I just think, well, on the East Coast and other parts of the world,
Sure,
cemeteries are very meaningful to,
sure.
and the way the dead are honored and buried has been something I've been fascinated with for years.
Okay.
And they're just different than what I grew up with. I grew up in Oregon, and we just have the flat like stones on the ground. And
Mhm.
here in Arizona, it's the same. There's nothing really to it. But if you go into more historical type of cemeteries, being able to read, the family names and the death dates and birth dates, I just feel such a connection to the area and the posterity and the people there. And I don't know, it's weird. In fact, there was what sorry
It
there
is
was one.
no, it is weird, but I'm fascinated by it. I'm here for every bit of this. Keep going.
Yeah. Well, we were in Barcelona, Spain a few years ago, and the cemetery there is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And it was like 100 degrees and humid. And we were walking around, me and my husband.
Mhm.
And I looked around and I said, "Isn't it so weird? We're the only ones here. Like, I don't understand." And he just starts laughing and he's like, "It is not weird that we're the only ones here. In fact, I would be very shocked if there'd be anyone else here because it was so hot and
Mm.
like I couldn't get enough of it." So I don't know. I
Mm.
love it.
Well, I'm glad to know from that story, one, where your passion lies. Two, the fact that you allowed your husband to go on vacation with you, even though it was a couple of years ago to Barcelona. So that works out. And then three, get ready to have your mind blown if you have not done this before, because this is a graveyard checklist. You must do this at some point in your life if you've not done this yet.
Oh, okay.
Louisiana, when they have the bands that play until the body is taken to the grave site. If you
Yes.
have not been to that celebration of life in the South, particularly Louisiana, you need to go.
Okay. I'm going to
Yep.
put that on my list. That
Yep.
sounds amazing. I think
Yeah.
I would love it.
Yeah. A couple of things that I just want to share before we get into the actual articles of news. I got this email. We'll start with the most recent one. This one is from Chris. So in a articles of news episode recently, I was talking about how a lot of the shows or podcasts, they're funded by like the church. So you get All In, that's funded by the church. It's through the arm of LDS Living in Deseret Book. But they have those kind of coffers. You have folks like Leading Saints, and that's a 501c3, and you can donate, and people can get tax, deduction, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. That is not at all what the Cultural Hall has, and so I encouraged people as they're looking to be more intentional for 2025 to think about opening their wallets, rather digital or literal, and make some donations or become a Patreon saint. Got an email from Chris Samiski, who says, really? You're not going to push that you get more donations through envelopes passed off to Kurt Frankum? I'm really disappointed. So hearkening back to a guy who wanted to donate money, know that Kurt and I are friends. He gave Kurt money to give to me. I rescind what I said before. All donations at this point need to go through Kurt Frankum. So you'll find him around a bunch. He's doing some cruise. Give him a wad of cash. I'm going to make him be very, 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 very detail-oriented. All money for the Cultural Hall needs to go somehow through him, just like on the slips that you get for your bishop. You can put for the Cultural Hall and just make sure that it gets that way. So thank you, Chris. I repent for the mistake which I've made.
That's awesome.
The other is with the episode that you did a while back with me, and I apologize to Michael that I didn't read this email before. It says, hey, Richie, I heard the most recent episode, and it seemed like the new audio settings you tried were meant to auto-balance with Verlin, and it was terrible. I know, we're still working on it, everyone. Also, I just realized a couple days ago that I missed the Articles of News episode with Molly Ashton. Before you gave her a nickname based on her sister's nickname, my first thought was that her nickname would actually be Molly. So we have one of our co-hosts from the past was Molly Jenny, because she went by Molly Mormon on another thing, and then her name is actually Jenny, so we called her Molly Jenny. And so Michael says that we should have called you actually Molly, as a nod to Jenny, Molly, who tried to use Molly Mormon as her pseudonym, etc. I liked her addition to the site and would not mind hearing from actually Molly again. She recently came back on. And then finally says, my suggestion for your pop-up insulin shop. So this is hearkening back to the discussions of at weddings, Mormons, we love sugar so much. We have, your crumble cookies like you guys do, and they're delicious. They're so sweet. And people with diabetes, either have diabetes or you'll get diabetes. That's not actually doctors think, but they're very, very sweet, right? And we constantly are eating as many sweets as we can, and you get swig and fizz and all the things. I said at weddings we should have a pop-up insulin shop, and he said, I've got the most perfect name for it, and you call it blood sugar. And I think that that's the perfect name. The logo, the colors almost write themselves. So invite blood sugar to come to your wedding as well, and I'll pop up right next to your crumble cookies and your swigs. I'm telling you, it's a market. So thank you to that email from Michael Bishop, contact@theculturalhall.com. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we will do actual articles of news. BestDJinUtah.com is the website. That is where you go if you would like me to come and DJ your event. Now, will I do a family reunion where you all wear the same t-shirts? You bet I will. Will I travel to wherever you're at? Am I reasonable as far as what I cost? Yes. Do I bring a good time? Yeah, all the things. Listen, Best DJ in Utah, it's my company. It's a thing I do that allows me to be able to have the time to do the Cultural Hall. So if someone's getting married, you think, man, they need a great DJ. You're throwing a party, whether it's a 50th or 60th or 40th or 20th or whatever the party is. I've done them all and would love to be able to do that. An anniversary party, certainly done those. I did a baptism in 2023. Yeah, we did a big dance party at a baptism. Spoiler, not a Mormon baptism, but it was fun nonetheless. BestDJinUtah.com is a website. I will get back to you within 24 hours with a quote. Come on now. BestDJinUtah.com.
Imagine running a small business today. It's challenging. Imaging and internet presence is an absolute must. Even with that, you're still a small star in a bright cyber universe. Now, imagine you have someone who understands how to get your site designed for your talents and then easily searched by potential clients. Imagine Lennon Design. Whether it's strictly a website or a whole package of logo creation, advertising media, and promotional materials, Lennon Design is your partner in business. They'll test the boundaries of their imagination to create something unique for you. When you need creative, affordable design, let it be Lennon Design. Call 801-699-3022 or visit LennonDesign.com.
Here in the second half of Articles of News, we do actual articles of news. Hit it, Peter.
You can't lose articles of news.
And away we go. I have asked Molly the Ash Ashton to give us what she thinks are the top 10 stories from the last time we did it, or we're catching up some as well. You started with this one, which I thought was very, very interesting. The Mormon Missile. Let's go here.
Interesting. I mean, I was just in Philadelphia, and this is talking about Tanner McKee, who plays for the Philadelphia Eagles, and he is LDS and played as quarterback at the game on Sunday night. And I happened to be stuck in that traffic at that game. So felt like this was the natural way to go. Anyway, this was actually super cool. So Tanner McKee was a 6th round draft pick, if that's how you call it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's sports. You're good. You got that. That is a sport thing. Nice work.
I actually love football. Like it's my very favorite sport. So I actually really do love it. But he was a 6th round pick from Stanford and hasn't played in any actual NFL games, but he practices with the other 2 quarterbacks. And I think Kenny Pickett was would have been the quarterback last week, but he had broken ribs that he had been trying to nurse all week. So Tanner McKee was practicing and throwing some plays and whatnot with the team all week, and they ended up putting him in, and he did fantastic. Like, it was so cool to read about how well he did. It was in the 3rd quarter. He was able to pass for 54 yards and 2 touchdowns in his 3 series, leading the Eagles to those 2 touchdowns in his first, leading the Eagles to those 2 touchdowns. He is the first quarterback since 1936 to throw 2 touchdown passes in 5 or fewer attempts in his first career game. Amazing. Like, yes. That's so cool. And so there was a note in the article, he can play quarterback in the NFL, and everyone knows it now. Like, he really can do it. And I'm excited to see where he goes, because it looks like, I mean, to come out and throw that kind of a game and have that kind of success, like, it's really, really awesome.
As I understand it, he's a return missionary, so it does help that he's like 5 years older than most other people that play in the NFL. Hey-o. I also thought it was interesting that he's like, oh man, it was awesome, but he was a little bummed out because the receiver who caught that first touchdown pass chucks the ball up into the stands, so he wasn't able to get it. I think he tried to negotiate like a jersey to get it back or whatever, because typically the players like to be able to, it was my first, touchdown pass or the Super Bowl ball or whatever the thing is. There are people that try and get it so that you can have those things if you are in that position that was your first thing. So I thought that was funny. The other thing is, why do we have to have alliterative nicknames or like
Mormon?
Yeah, the Mormon Missile, or like I don't know. I just think our nickname, so many of our things are so spot on. I just want better nicknames for members of the church. BY Jew is uncomfortable to me. The quarterback of the quarterback of BYU, who is Jewish, they call him BY Jew.
I know. We actually, we joke about that in our family. In fact, I thought I was the first one to say it, but then I started hearing it, and so I guess I wasn't the first. I can see how that's uncomfortable, though. I think he embraces it, so it's
100%. Yeah.
But
he embraces it to the millions of dollars that he is now getting from the name and licensing with the Manischewitz. I think
crackers.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And then you also get like the Storm and Mormon. It seems like we've got like 5 nicknames that you name a Mormon person, and that's it. So I mean,
True.
we've got lots of things there. We've got a shiz, a korihor. We could, lump in some Nephis, some Lehis, some of these things. There's lots available.
You're right, actually. There are. We should probably try to develop some and hope they catch
Kolob,
on.
celestial. There's a whole, outer darkness. I don't know. There's a
Yeah.
lot there for people. But to your point, super cool to watch Tanner Aki having the success that he had in that game. And as people will notice within the NFL, and as you know, because you are such a sports fanatic, quarterbacks coming in and coming out all the time, concussions, all these
Yep.
different things. There's a gospel
Yep.
lesson in him being prepared to play so that when he was asked, he didn't have
He
to
was right.
hesitate. Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
exactly right. Exactly right. Yep. I can't wait to see what he does.
And are you because of your son's mission service, are you an Eagles fan or you just happen to yeah, you like that?
So I've been an Eagles fan for years. One of my good friends, her brother-in-law was, well, anyway, sorry, I'm not going to go into that story, but she had a brother-in-law who was a coach for the Eagles years ago. And
Okay.
so it kind of got me. We live here, so the Cardinals are kind of our team, but
Mhm.
I don't know. I go back and forth between Cardinals and Eagles, but I've been an Eagles fan for many years. But then again, it's hard when they play the Chiefs because then you've got Andy Reid. But Andy
Sure.
Reid used to be an Eagles coach, so it all
Sure.
we can kind of cheer for all of them, I
Okay.
think.
We just want them all to play a good game. That's all we
That's
want.
right.
That's what
We
we
want
care
everyone to
about.
be.
We don't want to be a fanatic of any team. We just want them all to do their best and have a great game. That's what we want.
That's right. That's right. That is actually how I am with NFL. College football, I'm way more passionate about.
And
It's
you're a Sun Devil?
never. I'm a
No, no. What
BYU.
are you? What are you? Sorry, I'm
Yeah, Sun Devil here in
okay.
ASU,
But
Arizona. Yeah.
is that that's your team?
No,
No, what is your
never.
team?
BYU.
Oh, come on.
BYU all
No
the
matter
way. Like
what?
100%.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All
Although,
right.
you know what, I will say I did cheer for the Utes when one of their games, because if they had won it, we would have gone to the championship game. And so I
Mhm.
was like, well, I'll cheer for them then, but that was the only time.
Yeah, I'll allow it. I'll allow it.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, now I'm glad I know your allegiance. Jeez. Next story that you want to talk about was this new life preparation lessons, which I think is awesome. This is the Seminary and Institute of Religion that has implemented these new life prep classes for seminary students worldwide. Which I mean, how many times have we thought this in the past? How many people could benefit from something like this? And then why are we not just doing this in some way on a ward level for everyone? Some of these things I'm like, I know I can count every single person in my ward who could benefit from something like, um, one of their classes topics is temple prep. Okay, that's pretty on the nose for the church. Mission preparation, also fairly on the nose. But some of these other things are like succeeding in school, building self-reliance for the strength of youth, physical and emotional health, teaching of our church leaders, preparing for future education and employment. And I just think, man, first of all, where was I? Where was this when I was doing that thing that so many of us did when we got done with college or were in college going, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'll figure it out.
Right.
And then second, for all of us that are in church that are going, man, I don't know. How do you balance a budget? What is a budget? What is emotional intelligence? What are any of these things? I hope that this is the kind of the mood, the mode that we're going with within the church, not
Yeah,
just
I love
seminary
it.
students.
Well, I think, we see those adult classes that have been instituted, the self-reliance,
Sure.
the, employment, that sort of thing. And I think probably what they've realized is let's get those foundations set earlier. Like let's teach the kids when they are in high school, all of those things that you just mentioned. And then hopefully it helps guide them and lead them into a more successful adulthood. I have a good friend of mine is a seminary teacher, and they started this program, I think back last April. I think they were testing it down here in Arizona, and it has recently just rolled out to everyone, I think. And she could not say enough amazing things about it. She's like, here I am connecting with these kids every day. We have this spiritual connection. And she's like, and now I'm connecting with them on a different level. And the conversations we're having, and they're talking about their jobs they're working and the things that their parents are having them do to prepare for adulthood, all of
Yeah.
those things. She is just a huge fan of it. I have to say, One of my children isn't as much of a fan of it because he loves the spiritual nature of seminary. He's like, I just want to be deep in the scriptures and I don't want to talk about all this other stuff. That child in particular doesn't necessarily think of those other things like budgeting and working and whatnot. He would rather not. And so it's interesting to see him just ignore that a little bit, but now being forced to talk about it and learn about it it's really great. I'm super excited about this program. Another thing that my friend told me is it was kind of necessary with Come Follow Me being so encompassing at home, church, seminary. It's all overlapping so much. She said a lot of the material during the week, she said it got to be so repetitive that they needed more. They needed more, substance. And this has been a great way to lead into that. So,
well, let me ask you this, because you brought up something that I'm curious about. So those self-reliance classes, right? There's like the financial self-reliance or preparing for your new job or getting a better job. A lot of times those are offered at the stake level. Our stake started doing that, I think, last year. But they kind of were like, who's interested? And people's expressed interest, and then it sort of went the way. Have you ever done any of those, attended any of those, or gone to it? And then second question, if not that, how often are those offered? Are they regularly offered down there in Arizona?
So personally, I have not been to any of them. I haven't felt a need because they really are more of like, if this is something that you need, here's when the class is going to be. And from what I have observed, they've been fairly regular. Now, that being said, in Oregon, where I'm from, my aunt was a facilitator for one of these groups for a couple of years. I mean, they've been doing it for a few years. And she said the number of people who came to the budgeting, self-reliance, and then there's an employment one she helped facilitate. She said it really changed some lives. And, maybe it's not changing a million lives, but maybe you're helping one or two people within a congregation to better succeed in life. So I don't know. I don't know how well attended they are. But I do know that our stake does offer them. I see the emails regularly and I people are attending.
Well, and see, the reason why I bring it up is I think that we should. I think that we should be more, and like take a fifth Sunday and be like, hey, everybody, let's talk about wants versus needs. What's the scriptural thing about that? Nope. We're talking about wants versus needs. Because how many times as Americans, maybe some people have this really dialed in, but they're like, no, I need that. And it's like, no, you probably need to, not be in so much debt, or, pay these things off that you haven't paid off, or, your kids maybe needing some college help, whatever the things would be. I love some of the lessons that we, like, especially I think this kind of falls into like the fifth Sunday lessons. I've had some great fifth Sunday lessons where it's like, let's talk about community and how we can just connect as a community. What's the gospel principle? Well, Jesus said, love everyone. There, we'll loop it in there and have it be like that. But rather than being like, it's the porn fifth Sunday, it's the tithing fifth Sunday, it's the stake conference attendance fifth Sunday. I love when it's well done. Someone that knows their craft can come in and go, today we're talking about self-reliance. What does that mean? Here are 10 things that you can do today. And then someone like you and someone like me that maybe we feel like we got it pretty dialed in, we walk away going, I'm not even doing 5 of those things. I don't have life insurance, or, I haven't planned for retirement, or whatever the thing may be. I think that it's all encompassing. Tell your teenage kid, it's not just about the spirit, it's all the things, teenage kid. Sorry, pal.
Don't worry, we've told them.
Oh, yeah.
But no, I agree with you. I think you're exactly right. We've got so many people in our congregations that have expertise in so many fields, and on a fifth Sunday, let's take that time to really nail down and hammer home about some of those things. I think that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah. All right. So now you wanted to talk about the Kensington Temple lights, which people go, where is there a temple in Kensington? This is the Washington, D.C. temple.
Well, what's so funny is when I first saw the article, I was like, oh, there's another temple with temple lights in Kensington? It took me a minute to figure out once I read the article. I'm like, oh, they're talking about the Washington, D.C. temple. Okay.
Yeah.
But it said that on Christmas Day alone, 10,000 people moved through the visitor center and at least another 10,000 just wandered the grounds. And I just thought, that's amazing. I don't know the numbers for the Mesa temple. We have a pretty substantial temple lights here. I don't know what those numbers are, but 20,000 people just on Christmas Day alone who are coming to enjoy the spirit of the holidays, I think is amazing, fantastic. I guess the point of the article though was that the crowds are causing traffic issues, and so the church is having to, redo some signage and kind of help, with the neighborhoods, kind of to say like local traffic only. I know that that is problematic, and so I'd hate to see for this to be something that is disparaged or whatnot because it caused issues for the community, but hopefully the community sees it as a positive. I guess they have some great live musical entertainment. There's a lot that they do at this temple lights that's really fantastic. And I just love seeing the community coming together to just enjoy and to worship and love the holidays together.
And it's interesting you bring up Mesa. Mesa, huge thing, right? And they have or maybe it's at Easter. Is there some sort of like pageant that they do?
At Easter.
At Easter, okay.
Yeah. No, at Christmas, we have like a big nativity display in the visitor center. I mean, they do have choirs and that sort of thing. It is a big deal. So I will have to look sometime to see how it compares numbers wise. I'm not sure.
And they have recently sort of renovated that part of Mesa. Is it as grand as it used to be now?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely just as, I mean, it's even more well done. I mean, Mesa was really kind of in the pits for a while, kind of a little bit rough, and they've really revitalized the area. So it seems to be just as grand as it always has been.
That's awesome. I've never been, but I've thought about going down for like the Easter or something, or for Christmas, just because the pictures that you see, it just seems pretty amazing. Like an experience that you go, oh, I'm glad I did.
Yeah. Yeah. And the Easter pageant is phenomenal. I mean, it's really top notch. I encourage everyone to come and see that.
Now, is it strictly like Christ and then rising? Like what is it? Because I know like when the Manti pageant, it was problematic a little bit because we had a lot of white people playing Lamanites, and they were like, we need to be done with this. Yeah,
no, I mean, I think they do a really good job of being all encompassing of all races. I mean, and it really is. It's Christ, it's Jesus's life, and the talent. I don't know. I can't even describe it. It's like going to a Broadway show practically because it's really just so well done. Yeah, I mean, I would say you're brought to tears. You have the miracles of Christ's life, walking on water, and the way that they do it all is it's awesome. Yeah.
Okay. Really good. Listen, I'm sold. Can I camp on your front yard?
100%. You can even stay in the house if you.
Nope. I don't. Really nice. I don't want to. I don't want that. That's too much obligation to like clean up after myself or whatever. I want my own area and a tent, and I would say backyard, but I want to be a little intrusive and a little weird for your neighbors to have to be like, what's going on? So tent on the front yard.
That sounds perfect.
Great.
Yep.
Great.
Love it.
I don't know that we are going to actually do a 2024 biggest stories of the year. A lot of different other outlets have done this. Salt Lake Tribune with their Mormon Land. The folks over at This Week in Mormons have done it. Mostly it's because of my schedule and because people get busy over the holidays. I don't like to do a year in review when the year's not done, because I always think that there will be something in those last waning weeks that you're like, oh, that would have been the other thing. But as you sort of just look at it, this is the collective view. What do you think the biggest stories of 2024 were or are? You can send them contact@theculturalhall.com, and I'll share those emails. I know this next story that you had sort of encompassed them. I just want to know from you, what do you personally, one story or one theme of stories from 2024, what do you think was the big LDS story from 2024?
I mean,
you get one, and you will be judged based on how you answer this.
Oh, geez. Okay, so oh gosh, I don't know. For me, it was probably the shortening of the endowment session in the temple.
Okay.
That was kind of a big deal for me and us and our family. And it happened right as my son returned from his mission. And so we went to the temple together shortly, like a few days after he got home, and we had a big discussion about like, what do we think of this? And are we shortening it because we don't have the time to invest in going to the temple? Is it because we are so like immediate gratification centered now? Or like, what's the reasoning? And what we came up with is, a little bit. We're busy and we've, overscheduled our lives. And this is a way to get more of us to the temple more often. Mm-hmm. But I think it's kind of a bummer. I think not having the repetition for people who are brand new going through the temple is a little bit unfortunate. And I kind of wish they would offer both. You can go and
Interesting.
be a little bit, these times of the day are the more in depth where you're going to get the repetition and you're going to be reminded of those things. And then if you're kind of in a hurry, come to the shorter one. Now, that being said, I would always choose the shorter one. I really love it. I think it's fantastic. But my recently returned missionary said he would have loved to go longer. And, on a mission, you don't get to go to the temple very often. And
Right.
he only went a handful of times. So he's still pretty young in his temple attendance. And I don't know. So I think that was interesting. And not a huge, big story, I suppose. I mean,
Sure.
the other big story, I actually am super excited about the new garments coming out. And that was
Yeah.
like a big deal in
I think for my money, I think within the church, I think that is the biggest story from 2024 is the change in garments.
For sure.
Yeah.
I totally do. And I know with my friends, in fact, it was funny. One day I was chatting with some friends on a text and one of them said, I just wish there was a nightgown, garments that were like a nightgown I could just slip on, sleep in comfortably. The next day, the new garments were released. I sent her a screenshot. She's like, what is this? Because now for the women, they're going to have a slip option. And she's like, I can just wear that to bed. Like, that's amazing. And so I think really, I agree with you. It probably is church-wide the biggest news of the year.
And don't forget that the men as well, there's like a lesser sleeve for the gentlemen as well. That hasn't been talked about nearly as much as the changes for the women.
Right.
I know that, and it's not just that it's like, hey, we used to do it this way and now we do it this way. It's also, I think there's validation for a lot of women specifically who have said, hey, this is causing health concerns and I need you to hear my voice and have me felt like I'm being listened to. And so there's a lot of validation that's coming through the garments, the garment change. The other thing is, and I appreciate that you brought it up, the nightgown garments aren't just for women. I fully intend to get myself a slip garment so that I can sleep. I do not care for the wearing pants while asleep. And I don't care who knows it. It's perfectly fine. It's all the same covenants. I feel 0% bad about something like that to be able to sleep better.
Yeah. I mean, let's be comfortable. I think that's the biggest thing is that God never intended for any of us to be uncomfortable in keeping our covenants and in wearing our garments. So I love that they are constantly, I mean, I don't know if men's garments are as much like this, but for women, I feel like every couple of years there's a fabric change, there's something changing, and they're just trying. And there's going to be people who don't think they've tried hard enough, they haven't tried fast enough.
Sure.
But I appreciate that they are trying and I'm very excited for it. And, by end of this year, we should have them available to everyone. And it could definitely change a lot of people's lives. There are female bodies in particular. There are a lot of issues that have happened from the breathability and the tightness of what we have to wear. And I think this will help people not feel that guilt that they have felt about having to remove them at times and whatnot. And I think it's great. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and as I heard it sort of mentioned and would echo, I'm really excited to not talk about other people's underwear as much.
And that's true.
We are so weird that way. When there are other religious sort of markers, the yarmulke, the different things like that. It's so interesting that those are more a little outward, and we're like, what underwear are you wearing? Well, you're not wearing the right underwear, huh? Well, do you wear underwear and then the garment, or garment and then the underwear? Well, what about the bra? Does the bra? I'm excited to not talk about it. As far as outwardly, though, I would say the biggest story for the church in 2024 is everything about the secret lives of Mormon wives and heretic, the Mormons in the media, the resurgence of the church being discussed on not only a national in the United States, but an international scale because of these media representations, without a question. There's not another even relatively close story that would be as big. Well, let me say that again. Maybe President Nelson turning 100 years old could be that newsworthy in an international scope, but I don't think so. I think that the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives and the heretic and at all the media around the church, the Selling Salt Lake City, the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, though it really seems to be supercharged because of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Yep,
agree with you for sure. And I'm here for it. Keep them coming. I'm here to keep watching it all. I watch it all. So
Listen, we in the works, because the most listened to episode by like 300% of 2024 was the episode where Verlin and I, that's right, two dudes talking about Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, so many more listens than anything else that exists. So
I love it.
as it comes back on now broadcast TV at the end of January 2025, as we get the season 2 sometime this year, it's just going to continue.
Yeah. Now that's interesting that you mentioned that. I just found out it is going to be aired on ABC. Is that season 1 that is going to be
Yes.
re-aired? Okay. And then they'll release season 2, I imagine, right after. And will that be direct to ABC? Do you know? I haven't.
So from what I have gleaned is that it will be online first, and then depending on how it is received on broadcast television, then they will push it out that way. Because there's more episodes, they're going to have the luxury of being able to weekly release those on broadcast television in a different way than the Hulu audience would likely consume them. But there's talk that it'll be 10 episodes and then a break and then 10 episodes to try and keep everyone up, as opposed to a 20 episode drop. But don't you worry, me and my girlfriend Verlin, we're going to get on and talk all about the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives.
I cannot wait.
Now, we'll get some other better representation for that, for sure, as we discuss those. Although probably I'll make him talk to me about it for some of the things that come out.
Yeah.
Let's see. You wanted to now go to the next story. Oh, yeah, geez. The arson of the church in Missouri.
Yeah, so this was Christopher Scott Pritchard. He pled guilty to two counts charging him with arson for setting fire to an LDS building in Missouri, and it happened in April of 2021.
So we reported on this originally when it happened back in 2021 here in the Cultural Halls and Articles of News, but this is where he has now pled guilty. Sorry to interrupt.
Yep. So he's actually pled guilty. This article was really interesting. It talked a lot about how attacks on houses of worship in our country undermine the fundamental right to practice one's religion free from fear or violence. And the FBI said they will relentlessly pursue those who try to deny congregants of any house of worship from exercising their rights to religious freedom. And they take this stuff really seriously. I mean, you see a mosque that is burned, any religious house, it really should be a place of safety for people. So he will face sentencing on February 18th. Oh, I'm so sorry.
You're fine. Yeah, so he'll face sentencing on the 18th of February, and because it is a religious organization, institution, the penalty will be greater because of that, is what I'm understanding, and it probably should be, I think. So that doesn't happen, like I said, till the middle of next month, and then who knows actually to the amount of time that he'll get sentenced for. ATF is involved in this, obviously, as well. He also faces a fine of $250,000 with respect to each of the charges that he's facing, and a maximum penalty of 20 years in prison for violating the Church Arson Prevention Act, which I didn't know. I didn't know there was a Church Arson Prevention Act. CAPA is what they call it, which is a mandatory minimum penalty of 5 years in prison for arson of a building affecting foreign or interstate commerce. So just geez, don't do it. Yeah. Don't vandalize, don't burn things. Deal with your issues other ways. Don't drive trucks down roads or explode things. Please, for the future and calmness of everyone, deal with your things in different ways. Please and thank you.
That's right. I think, he should be punished. And, do you know why he did it? I don't even know. I'm not that there's any good reason, but did he have something against the LDS faith, or was it random? I don't know.
I don't remember. And so my brain is only going to joke answers to your question, which was the sacrament bread was stale and he was real mad. Yeah. You've had that before where you're like, I am trying to have this be a moment to connect to deity, and this bread is so stale, or that priest coughed and did not wash his hands afterwards. I saw him. I think that could have been what it was too. No, I don't actually
Probably.
know motive. Sorry, everyone. That
Got
was
it.
sacrilegious, if you will. Um,
Uh,
yeah, I'll find
yeah.
out. I'll see if I can't find a little bit more about that. And if anyone else, contact at theculturalhall.com. Would love to have your input as far as that goes. The next story that you wanted to do was about your sisters in the gospel,
Yes, my Mormon
the
house,
Mormon
Mormon
wives.
wife.
Jeez.
You know what? I loved actually this latest from the Mormon wives, because it talks about Jen Affleck. And Jen Affleck, in my mind, is the most active, temple going LDS member of that group.
Yeah.
And she's kind of taken a step away from social media the last few months. The end of the last season, she and her husband, Zach, were
A
kind of on
train
the
wreck.
rail. Yeah, a bit.
Yeah.
Yep, yep. I mean, he definitely was showing signs of being a little bit chauvinistic, overbearing type of husband.
Controlling. Yeah.
And yeah, controlling. People gave him a lot of flack for it. And she said, you know what, watching those episodes and watching the season and going to therapy has actually really helped them to really change their marriage and to make it better. And
Mhm.
I just have a ton of respect for that. I have a ton of respect for the fact that she's taken a step away to work on her marriage, work on her family, work on being a wife and mother. And in the process, they've moved to New York. He's going to med school in New York. She is there and supporting him and raising their kids. And we'll probably see her back on social media a little bit more. She is going to be in season 2. I mean, that's there's been some speculation maybe she wouldn't, but she will be. And I think it'll be good to watch and see if they've learned from their mistakes and from the first season. And I'm excited to see what happens. She's probably my favorite on the show. So I'm excited to see where that goes.
Interesting. I wonder, there's got to be one of those quizzes that we take online. Which is your favorite, or which are you more like of the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives women? I I found it fascinating, because she goes. The big deal in season 1 was that she goes to the Chippendales, and the husband doesn't much care for it. My wife and I, we watched the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives together, and I said, "Yeah, I would not like that very much." I would not
Yeah,
care for it. I would not like you to do that. Does that make me controlling? And we actually, there were multiple times within the watching of the series that we found ourselves in fairly heated discussions, because it's like, I don't get to control you. And yes, you get to make all of the choices that you would like to make, but I can also not like that thing and express that I don't like that thing if you were to do it. And she would never do it. And it's sort of a moot point. But
right.
but a lot of people were giving him so much flack for, being like, "Hey, I don't really want you to do it." Again, he was doing it in a controlling way, blah 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 blah. But husbands and wives say to each other all the time, "I'd really prefer that you not do that,"
Yeah.
and it's not controlling.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And it's not being filmed for millions of people to
Right.
watch and to
Right.
critique, pick apart. And yeah,
Yeah.
so not to say he doesn't show those tendencies, but I think he's hopefully learned from it
Yeah.
and will continue.
Yeah. That would be the one thing, because I make a million mistakes a day. That would be the hardest thing about living a life that exposed, is because there are those lessons that I would need to learn, and there would be things that I'd be like, "No, I don't. I'm not that." Oh, yes, I am. Oh, shoot, I
Oh
did.
yeah.
I did do that. Hmm. Hmm.
Yep.
All right. So now, the next story that you have is about a church donation, which I think is pretty cool. This is the church donated to the Medicine Hat Women's Shelter. This is in Arizona area, yes?
That's what I thought. It's actually in Alberta, Canada.
Oh, interesting.
The shelter is called the Phoenix Shelter. And
Okay.
so I Googled it. It turns out Medicine Hat, I think, is a city in Alberta, Canada.
And do we know
I
why
think.
it's called Medicine Hat? Because I'm about to find out if you don't know.
I don't know. So I would
Okay.
love it if you could find out. But yeah, the church made a nearly $300,000 donation to help improvements on this women and children's shelter there in the area. And I thought it was awesome. It's awesome that we are putting our money into the local communities and into things that really will make a difference. And what the spokesperson said is that if we are helping our women and helping our children, we are helping our society and our community as a whole. And we want to make sure they have a safe place to be.
Hmm.
And anyway, thought it was fantastic. But what I'm curious about, did you find out if why it's medicine
I
hat?
did. It is a Blackfoot Indian name that began it. It's called Samus or Samus, Saamis, which means headdress of the medicine man. And that's
Oh,
where it comes from. I guess that was what the Native American or Native Canadian people would call it. And then the people adopted it and said, yeah, we'll call it medicine hat.
yeah. Okay, interesting.
Now, what are
Interesting.
you
You know
curious
what?
about?
What I'm curious about is, you have this small community where the church has donated $300,000.
Mhm.
Is that happening in communities all over and we're just not hearing about it? How is it decided that that one shelter in that community is given this, this $300,000 donation? Is it that they went and asked for it? I don't know. I don't know how that works. I don't know how the donations are stipulated from
Hmm.
community to community. I don't know. It's something that am curious about, and I don't know. I don't know if you have any insight in that.
Yeah, I don't. Immediately, if you were my wife and we were talking, I would make up an answer because I always like to make things up and have an answer whenever she asks the question. I would say something like, my guess is it is either the area authority or a stake president who takes it to an area authority, that says, "Hey, in this area, we have this opportunity for this. Could we be able to do it?" I would venture at least a partial guess that some of it is strategic. If there are
Yeah.
areas of countries where the church would like, um, something in return. I know that this sounds terrible, but I know that these kind of things exist where it's like, hey, we'd like to be able to have this here. What could we do to be able to do that? Well, this organization could
Mhm.
really benefit from this. Great, we will do that. And in turn, you support our whatever initiative that we're doing in that area or building or whatever the thing may be. I could see that that could be part of it as well. Some people think that that's
Yeah.
gross. I think that's the way that things happen.
I think you're right. I think it's inevitable that that's how things happen,
Yeah.
honestly. I love this at the end of the article. It said, at this time of year, when everybody's familiar with the story about there being no room in the inn, this comes at such a good time. I think it's fitting and important for a community to support this cause. For women who are victims of family violence, I don't think we should ever put them in a situation where there's no room at the inn.
Ugh.
Love it. I
Ugh.
mean, yeah, it's really heart-wrenching.
I know you wanted to, as far as the order for the rest of this, I'm going to kind of circumvent what you have for the rest. We've only got a couple minutes, and I wanted to talk about this. The church, that is the leadership of the church at the death of President Jimmy Carter, issued the following. We express our deepest sympathy to the family of President Jimmy Carter and join with others in honoring his legacy of service to his country. President Carter embraced the Savior's admonition to love thy neighbor, leading by example in many humanitarian causes and promoting peace worldwide. He will be remembered as a dedicated public servant and devoted man of faith. We pray that the Carter family may feel love, comfort, and peace as they reflect on President Carter's remarkable life. One of the things that I have absolutely loved since the passing of President Carter is to learn more about him. Um, Everything, in fact, in all news outlets, they said by far the most practicing Christian president in the history of the United States.
That's
As much as
awesome.
they can quantify something like that. He was a Sunday school teacher at his local church in Athens until he went into hospice at 98. And
Wow.
he just weekly, like people would come to the area and want to be a part of his class, and he didn't make it about him. It was, here's how you can learn more of the Savior, and he would teach it in that way. But tremendous. Everything with the nonprofit organization Habitat for Humanity, homes upon homes upon homes. And this was a guy that, he had his Secret Service people helping him right alongside because he's like, no, I'm going to be wielding a hammer. I am going to be sawing this thing. I'm not, a privileged former president who's gonna great job everybody building this thing. He was in the trenches doing it. A
Yeah.
remarkable life led, and I love that the church
Absolutely.
recognized him at his passing for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Really remarkable.
Other things that I wanted to touch on real quick, just in our waning moments of this episode, there was something that was new that I wanted to make sure that we hit, and now I'm doing that great thing, which is stalling until I find it, which no one actually appreciates. Let's see, that is not it. Oh, yes, there it is. It is the President Nelson as well as President Oaks talking about the new year. Do you follow the Prophet or the First Presidency on Instagram or any of these?
I do. I don't keep up on social media as much as I would like to, but I do follow them. Yes.
So President Nelson, New Year's Day, right? And I'm sure he's got help of people helping him post on all the things. But New Year's
Yeah.
Day, he says it was on this day 25 years ago, and that was a time check for me, because I remember when the document "The Living Christ" came out. I was
Yes.
serving a mission at the time, so Jan 1, 2000, the year 2000. A document signed by then the First Presidency and the Quorum of the 12, essentially just establishing our belief in Christ and that he lives and everything that he is. That 25 years ago is when that came out.
That's
25.
crazy. That's crazy.
So old.
And he said he's one of, there's only four of them living that signed that now, which is kind of cool. Interesting.
So that's got to be what? President Nelson, Oaks, Elder Holland, and Elder Eyring, right? That would be the four that are still alive that signed that.
Exactly.
And then the next day, President Oaks as well, just talking about how this can be a time to reflect on what you've done in the past, what you hope for the year. Are you a person who does goals and all that? I would imagine within your business, you probably have like business objectives that you're trying to accomplish. Are you that person?
Not so much, not usually, but this year our family has decided to each make 3 to 4 relatively easy goals, so to speak.
Okay.
We've been talking to all four of our kids about it. We had a family council the other night, and we're going to, by Sunday, have those goals in place. And we want them to be attainable goals. We just
Sure.
were really trying to hammer home with our kids that it's not about saying, I'm going to lose 100 pounds this year. I'm going to, run 10 miles a day, although you're running a ton with IFC.
Yeah.
So we are doing that this year, which we've never really done that. And I'm excited. I'm excited for the things they've been really thinking about that they want to work on.
Nice. Tell me one of yours.
One of mine is to focus on weight training 4 days a week. I've actually lost a significant amount of weight recently, and I work out a ton, but I'm not really good at weight training. And as an older woman, I need to be building my muscle. So
Sure.
4 times a week, I'm focusing on weight training.
That's great. Taking the opportunity to take care of your future self.
That's
And
right.
everyone in
That's
their
right.
20s and 30s are like, blah, blah, blah. And then you hit a certain age and you go, oh no, that's real. And here's how
Yep.
I wish I would have done this differently. But no
Ex-
shame. It's looking
Yep.
towards the future.
That's right. Another goal I have is to read 12 books. I don't read, like, I just don't read. I'm so busy with everything else I do. And my kids are really great readers. So I was like, I need to like up my game. So I'm
Does
doing one
listening
book.
to a book count?
It does. I
Okay.
don't love listening to books though. I love podcasts because they're in short spurts, but listening to books, I get a little distracted. So I really
Books are in
want
chapters, you can divide books into chapters. You
I
don't have
know.
to listen to the whole book in one sitting.
That's true.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they nonfiction? Or are they like improve your life with this book? Is that what you're trying to read?
No.
Okay.
No. I
Just
like
books in general.
books in general, historical fiction, yeah, lighthearted. I like deeper. I like historical fiction. I like World War II era books. So that's what I have. My daughter laughs because I buy books. I buy books that I think look good and I don't read them. So
Mhm.
I'm now gonna,
May I make a suggestion to you
yes, please.
for a book? I'm going to look it up while I'm telling you. So one of my goals, a fun thing about me is I'm not necessarily diagnosed OCD, but I really like to obsess on things. And so one of the things I'm trying to do in 2025 is put in place behaviors that allow me to kind of curb some of those obsessions. Like one of the things that I do, it sounds silly, but I like to have a very tightly pressed thumb on my home financial situation. Like, well, how much money do we here? How much money do we have left to get to this? What's our next goal as far as this goes? And I think it's good, it's healthy, but I've taken it to the not good, not healthy part of that whole thing. And so, in order to not only save my marriage, but also help me have a better life, I have made a goal to only have particular days of months that I'm allowed to look at something like that so that I can just be like, yeah, okay, turning that off, doing something else. I undoubtedly will find something else to obsess about, but I'm excited at the potential of not obsessing about money in the year 2025.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I think
will
that,
see.
yeah.
The name of the book, it's called I'm Glad My Mom Died.
Oh, I read it.
Oh, you did? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So you do read a little.
A little. That's the one about she was LDS, right?
Yeah, and on
Yeah.
TV. Yeah, okay. All right.
But say the whole name because I think everyone should read it or listen to it. It's a really great book.
It's called I'm Glad My Mom Died, and it's by Jeanette McCurdy. That is one that I read that I recommend to people. There's another one too. This is in my Audible library, everyone. When the Moon Turns to Blood by Leah Satili, who was a previous guest of the Cultural Hall. This is all about Daybell and Lori Vallow.
Oh, yes.
She does a phenomenal job with that book. In the space that you're in, this is not a fiction or a mystery or a fun book, but Unreasonable Hospitality is an incredible book that I would recommend to you. It's by Will Guidera. If you watch the show, what is that on FX about the chef, it's a one word. The what?
Bear?
The bear. Yes. Yeah. It's kind of like that.
Okay.
So that would be one that I would tell you about. And then there's one more. What is that book called? Motorhome Prophecies by Carrie Sheffield. If you liked Educated by Tara Westover,
yes, I love
some of that, you'll love Motorhome Prophecies. But you don't have to take my word for it. But that's it. We have exceeded our time today.
All right.
Hope that this episode has nourished and strengthened your body.
And if you weren't well enough to attend this week, you'll be well enough to attend next week.
And that when the time comes, you will be able to travel home in safety. In the meantime, Chris at Alpine Lakes Travel, Debbie Wanless, Chocolate Cake Bites Podcast, and the Tiger with a U will be saving a seat for you
on the back row of
the Cultural Hall.
Save me a seat, it's sure to be neat on the back row. We really gotta go on the Cultural Hall show.